Happy All Saints Day. There's a lot of tradition in All Saints Day, tradition that goes back to the Middle Ages and the Reformation, but honestly today we don't celebrate it too much, particularly in Nevada, what with yesterday being Nevada's Day and Halloween. So sadly, we often overlook this historically significant day. You know, traditionally Christians believe and celebrate that we have been called to life by eternal God. And because we are called to life, we understand that those who die in our realm are merely passing to God, where they will be in His presence, and one day we will be reunited with them. Life is eternal. That's part of our Christian faith. Today is the day where Christians celebrate that God's people are all His children. Literally, saints. Saints of God. The word saint means, in the original biblical languages, the ones who were called out to be holy. That's what we are, the saints of God. Today's text from 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 1 through 10 is perfect for this day of celebration. To help us understand what it means to live the Christian life, Peter gives us this metaphor of the cornerstone. The cornerstone of a building. It's in this metaphor where the real meat of this message is. The cornerstone idea is a quote from the Old Testament prophet Isaiah. Peter claims the ancient text that says, "So this is what the sovereign Lord says. See, I lay a stone in Zion, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone for a sure foundation. The one who relies on it will never be stricken with panic." So here's what's going on with this metaphor and what it means for this particular text. A cornerstone in the ancient world is part of a stone or a masonry building, and it's the first stone that's laid on the property. It marks the corner. It sets the lines for the rest of the building. All other stones were then placed in line in relation to that cornerstone. If the cornerstone's misplaced, then the building might not be on the right property. It might not be set correctly on the property. Worse yet, the lines might not be straight, which then puts the entire structure in danger. Things not fitting, walls possibly falling because they don't line up. The other significant thing about the ancient cornerstone is that often inscriptions or memorials would be placed on those stones, the very foundation of the building. It was a way to memorialize the building. That tradition continues today with plaques and dedications that you see on building. So a cornerstone sets the building in place. It is the beginning of its form. Once you have that cornerstone, the entire building can be built around and on it. The remaining stone are the building blocks, and their position is defined by the cornerstone. The cornerstone gives the building its definition and its identity. That's the metaphor that Peter's using here. He gives this to the church. He says, Jesus is the cornerstone. It gives us our identity. It defines who we are and what will be built through us. We are to be stones that give God's kingdom substance. The very building of God's kingdom on earth. So what does this look like? If Christ is our cornerstone, our place is to follow Him, and in doing so, be an example of God's goodness so that we are part of the building of God's kingdom. We know what's required because God has laid out His call for us in His book. This is the blueprint of the building of God's kingdom. It's not that hard. Jesus summed it all up in two simple commandments. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. We studied the 10 commandments and learned how it's all summed up by Jesus in those commands. If we were to love God and love and serve our neighbors, the world would be the kingdom that God wants it to be. So God gives us our cornerstone and the blueprint, our places to follow him. We know what's required because it's laid out in the Bible. We are to be God's people, people of grace. We're to show kindness to all, to value life, even if it's the life of our enemies or people who differ from us politically. This is also the week of the election. My prayer is that the church will set an example, recognizing that people who differ from us politically are not evil. They're not our enemies. They are fellow Americans. Whether we win or we lose, we still remain God's saints. We still remain God's people in this world. And honestly, whether we win or lose, the world still remains broken and in need of grace. In fact, the world is in much more need of grace than it is of politics. So as Christians, we're called to forgive those who fail. And we're to seek forgiveness when we fail. We're to put others first. These are the ways of Christ, who is our cornerstone. And he set that way out for us. You know, when you're willing to fulfill your calling in the world, people's lives are changed and the world takes note. When you're willing to fulfill God's calling and be grace in the world on God's behalf, miracles happen. I am sure of that. The truth is, it doesn't matter who you are. If you respond to God's grace, things will happen. He will work through you. You will be a person who is called out to holiness, a saint. In fact, I think if anyone acts with grace, God imparts goodness to our world. Let me give you an example of what I mean. On Monday, I was driving to work, and I saw a miracle that truly changed my view of things that are around me. I saw true goodness in the midst of brokenness and evil. And in that moment, I think I was seeing God at work, on many levels, in fact. So I was coming to work. It was in the morning on Monday. Yes, I do work on days other than Sunday. Because there was traffic and construction, I changed my route. And I found myself on that new road over here that they call Neon Parkway. I was at Neon Parkway in Oakey. I was at the light as I was taking the back way into the church. And on the corner there were two police cars with their lights going. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a long wait. And I looked at the corner where there's a vacant lot. It is destitute poor. And there were two police officers. One was kneeling, and the other was talking into his radio on his shoulder. With all the narratives about police violence and injustice in the world, I thought, I wonder if this is a moment where I should take out my phone in case I have to film something. Because the only people around were homeless people. And they seemed to be fleeing this scene. They were moving quickly away from the police officers. What I saw was a homeless woman who was laying flat on the ground. She was clearly in distress. She was screaming. And I saw one officer who knelt down, move her into a sitting position so she could throw up and not choke. And he held her And I rolled down my window and I could hear him saying words of encouragement. It's going to be okay. Help is on the way. And the other officer who was standing there speaking into his radio was calling for help. And then he stopped and he knelt down and he began to render first aid. And it was one of the most compassionate scenes I have ever seen. This woman, I cannot describe how destitute she looked, how in need and how sick. The kind of person that most people would get away from. And they were treating her with such compassion. It was a barren corner in a poor part of town. And the only people responding to help were police officers who were called to be there. And they fulfilled their calling in a way in which I have never seen officers do before. I was just deeply touched, and what I thought in that moment was, this is grace, shown to a woman who neither deserved it nor respected it, but was being treated with dignity. I don't think she will ever remember that gift, but I'll tell you, I will. What I saw was a witness of goodness and grace, and how it changes people's ideas and hearts when they see those acts of kindness. It was pure grace. I think people like those two officers who are simply doing their duty don't realize that they become of a great part of a greater narrative, one of goodness and grace. They were fulfilling God's call, whether they knew they were called or not. Peter ends this morning's text with a little bit of encouragement for us. He says this, "You are a chosen people. You're a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of the darkness and into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are a people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy." We are the benefits of God's grace. God has knelt down beside us and given us grace even when we didn't recognize it. And now he's called us out into holiness that we might be his hands in ministry, like the police officer on the side of the road. I can tell you that when we're faithful, lives are changed, and it is a tremendous witness. We're a chosen people, a royal priesthood, literally called and chosen by God to be part of his family, a family that lasts forever. You are a saint, and there is a place for you with the saints of God for all of eternity. That's why we celebrate All Saints' Day. Not because we believe in the Roman Catholic saints like Joan of Arc, but because we know that as Christians we are all called to be saints. And if we would fulfill that calling, the world would be blessed. This morning we want to recognize the saints of our church who have gone on to be with God this past year. As the names are read, please take a moment and thank God for the gift of each of these saints. If we've forgotten a name, please forgive us. We have tried to list the names of our members and active participants of our church, but sometimes we make errors, and if we have done so, please forgive us.